Hey, hi everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and this video is about narcissistic parents and how they live rent free in your head. I've been helping many people over the 45 years I've been working with people to get their family of origin and the dysfunctional, toxic things out of them and helping them to develop their own real self and also know how to interact with others and in other relationships. First of all, number one, narcissistic parents need to live in our heads. That is Narcissism 101. I want to live in other people's heads. Why? To control us, to keep us insecure, to traumatize and protect their supply, narcissistic supply, and they do that through enmeshment, emotional enmeshment. Enmeshment is simply, here are my emotions, here are their emotions. Or I also use a tennis court analogy. I'm on one side of the tennis net, they're on the other side of the tennis net. What happens when we are enmeshed, our emotional processes go like that, and they overlap. Now I ping them, they ping me, I ping them, they ping me. And that's how the control continues in our relationship with them. And we also have this attachment to the family super self. Not the real self me, but I take on the family super self. And I believe, think, and feel the way I grew up and what I learned. Living in our heads is a part of that emotional enmeshment. They want to live in our heads. And they have been doing that for years when we were growing up. Narcissistic parents live in our heads, which then prevents a development of the self. Because if I can live in your head, I can prevent you from you being and discovering and becoming your own self. Because I want to either loan self to you or I want you to borrow self from me. Because that way we can stay enmeshed and connected and you're not free to develop your true self as to who you really are. Number 3, expelling them from our heads is taboo. And that's why many people say, well, how would I do that? I have no idea how to do that. That sounds so hard. Well, it's so hard and we don't know how to do it because it's so taboo. And in the family, it's a big no-no. In other words, to have internal boundaries and detachment, which means you're not living in my head anymore, or heart, or emotions, that's going to look really weird to a dysfunctional family. If not threatening, it would feel attacking. And really, all you're doing is just staying emotionally, healthily detached. In other words, if you say, I'm an idiot, and my internal experience is, and your point is, I don't know. It sounds like something you'd say. Doesn't bother me. I don't care. That would be so weird inside of a narcissistic family. And we would probably get punished for having that emotional state. If you're not worried about what mom and dad will think, you're not normal. What's wrong with you? And then again, that keeps this dysfunctional super self going in the family. And the super self is, no matter how wrong or crazy mom and dad are, that's the norm. And that's to be accepted or at least dealt with in some way. But usually not in a healthy way. Number 4, to expel them from our head, we will feel shame, guilt, anxiety, and fear on cue. Because these systems feelings are very powerful. And again, that's how we stay enmeshed with the narcissistic parent and the dysfunctional family, because we have these feelings erupting on cue. Because if you're doing something wrong, it'll get pointed out. You're then supposed to feel guilt or shame and then get back in line. And that, again, is the difficulty because we are to feel those feelings on cue. And often we do. 5. If you no longer let them live in your head, what would you think, feel, and do? If I were to wave a magic wand and now your narcissistic parent no longer lives in your head, what would you think? What would you feel? And what would you do? Think about that. Vision that. Envision that. Consider that. Because what you're doing when you do that is you're working to step outside the box. Because inside the box, all of that makes sense. What's going on with the family and the parents and the narcissistic parents. If you start thinking about, well, what would I think, feel, and do if I didn't have that? I wonder what would happen. What would be the downsides? What would be the upsides? What might I do? What might I say? What might I not say? For example, one thing we might not do is argue. That may be a very powerful thing. Because if they're not living in my head, why do I have to argue? What's the arguing about? It's not going to change them. It's not going to change anything. And in fact, the argument and the conflict just keeps the enmeshment more in place. And we know that in systems thinking. 6, what real self can replace them in your head? For example, if I feel shame, I can begin to remind myself, I am not them and they are not me. Here's they're in my head. I am not them and they are not me. Oh, but I feel all this guilt and I can't get rid of it. I am not them. They are not me. And so we work to move away from that dynamic. Or guilt or shame. And shame is I am not them, they are not me. Guilt, I want to reconsider using mom and dad as a good behavior compass. I need to reconsider that. They are not going to change. They're not going to be a good compass. Stop waiting on them to do it. Stop trying to change them to do it. That's only going to keep you connected with the unhealthy family super self. I can decide what is shameful for me or not, and I can decide if I need to feel or should feel guilty or not. That's my decision, not theirs. 7th and lastly, detach from their inner dialogue or inner feelings. Yeah, but you're just making me feel so bad. I don't know why you're causing me such trouble. That hurts me so bad. I don't know why you... Now I'm getting all involved in their inner dialogue. I'm getting all involved. Oh, I'm so sorry I did that. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know why you're upset. That isn't what I said. Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to get them to change versus stepping outside of that and going, I'm so sad that you feel that way. That must be miserable. What would you like to have for lunch? Again, I always like being empathetic and then letting them deal with their own inner emotions. Because it's not for me to get in there and try to fix it. Well, you're just a worthless son. You know, you're probably right. Hey, where do you want to go? You want to go to McDonald's or Burger King or where would you like to? I'm not going to get into their process. I'm going to leave their process with them. And that's a very important skill to learn and to practice. I hope you'll subscribe, comment on this video. Please push the like button. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and be wise.